Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Sunday Messages. Today, we are talking about the different flavors of not caring, or the different flavors of detachment. We'll talk about all of the different nuances of this. I actually got this as a podcast request from someone on Instagram, and so I just thought it would be a great way to extend the conversation that we had on Wednesday. If you have not already listened to the storytelling episode, go back and listen to that. The feedback that I've been getting has been phenomenal. People love that episode. It was a really, really great conversation. And just trust me on this, that session that we did was fantastic. So let me see. I'm going to read the full question because there were some nuances to it that I want to make sure that I include. But before we go into all of that, I just want to remind you, Once Upon a Time is starting that first week of August. So we're getting closer to the start date. And I'm referring to it as a mini mastermind intensive because there's going to be some really, really sexy boundaries that I'm giving you in this program that is going to intensify the results. And so this is one of those containers where I'm gonna not, if you're willing to go all in on the container, it will dramatically shift things because we're not tolerating any crappy stories in Once Upon a Time, because it's going to require your full dedication to commit to the new experience that you desire to have and to commit to the reality that you're creating. And so one of the things that I've been really picking up on collectively from the group is people wanting to find their way out of spirals. So if you're mentally spiraling out, you're telling a lot of negative stories, you're having a really hard time recalibrating yourself, all of that, I'm sure that you know what I'm talking about as far as maybe the day starts off fine or maybe it doesn't. And then all of a sudden your mind just completely gets away from you. And then you're in a really sour mood as a result. And so I've been picking up on people really wanting to know how to adjust the story, even if you're pretty deep into feeling bad. And I had this experience yesterday where it was like the middle of the day, it was like 2 p.m. And I didn't capitalize on my morning quite as well as I normally do. Some negative momentum started to pick up. And by 2 p.m., I was like in a rotten mood. And I seriously committed. I was like, there is no way that I am sitting with this energy for the next 10 hours. That's ridiculous. Like, I have to be able to shift this. And it did take a little bit more muscle. It took a little bit more willpower than usual, but it's like I did make my way out of it. I did successfully recalibrate it. So I wasn't just like sitting in a dirty diaper all day. You know what I mean? And so I'm just feeling that the group is really wanting more of those tools, because the thing is, and I know that I can't remember if I mentioned this on the last episode, but simply put, if you could commit to a new story, that would fix it. So whatever it is that you're dealing with, if you told a new story, that is the answer. The answer is no more bitching, complaining, and talking about how hard things are. It is doubling down on what you want. But getting to that place, right? Getting yourself out of a rabbit hole is the work. Getting yourself set up for success during the day, that's the work. Being able to massage your feeling state into where you want it to be, that's the work. And so even though conceptually and energetically it's very straightforward and very simple, it's how do we get there? How do we get there when there are things that might be uncomfortable? How do we get there when our 3D experience is contradicting our desire? How do we get there when we're not seeing any movement and we start to panic? It's that stuff. And so I'm making sure that throughout this, you're going to have a solid toolkit. Let me tell you, there will not be anything that you cannot navigate your way out of. That's my primary objective. And also for us to have a lot of fun. And we're going to be talking about a lot of different fun topics. Archetypes, of course, are going to come up as they always do. We're going to be doing character work. We're going to be working on self-concept. We're going to have loads of practices that we're doing. And again, it's going to be context specific. So it's going to be dependent on what you're dealing with. Will inform which tool you want to lean into in the moment. I've got loads of different styles of scripting, and that doesn't just mean written down, but you get the idea, like different scripting modalities, if you will, or different styles that I've kind of accumulated over the years. And so I'm going to be sharing those with you. It's jam-packed. It's going to be a jam-packed month. There is no lack in this container, I can tell you that. So the other thing that I want to mention is I also added a 3-month payment plan if you're needing them spread out a little bit further. So anyway, go apply, get inside. It's going to be a blast. I am telling you. And I haven't felt this much energy behind a launch in a long time, actually, where I'm like frothing at the mouth, ready for this to start, just because it's like I can feel it bubbling for everyone. And there's so much that I have to give. As soon as I got the container, like as soon as the download came, it's like an avalanche of things and stuff for everyone inside came on the heels of the inspiration. And so I'm just really excited to deliver it. And I'm really excited to see what happens for everyone. And also, speaking of, I was reflecting on something today. I might write an Instagram post about this, but I was reflecting on the fact that we're already in the second half of 2023. And it is one of those pivotal times. You all know how I feel about the fourth quarter. Okay. Fourth quarter is like where you want to go a little bit harder than usual. But this is also one of those times when people have a tendency to like sit in this nebulous space and not really capitalize on their time because there's not really as much of a deadline sensation that you're experiencing. And so I find that this like middle of the year section, because we're not approaching a new year, we're not at the beginning of the year, it creates a different energy. And so you kind of have to manually stimulate it for yourself in order to just get the results that you want. And for me, I'm just having a lot of fun with my pursuit of more, like every move that I'm making, feeling like this is setting me up for all of these things that might appear to be really far out, but I know they're not really. Because we have poor depth perception when it comes to how events unfold. And so it's really been helpful for me to think about things this way, because it reminds me that like to not lay off the gas. And that's kind of how I feel with this third quarter of the year, is like you could let off the gas, but don't. You could coast, but I don't recommend it, because if particularly for those who have big goals, big dreams, big desires like myself, this is not the time. Like, what if you could collapse the time of something that you're experiencing by just going hard this third quarter, not in terms of the effort and exertion and like pushing yourself in all of the ways that lead to the sensation of burnout, but what if you just let yourself go there energetically? You let yourself double down on all of the things that you know to do. You tightened up all of your practices. It's like you create a little bit more of a pressure cooker for yourself that's more activating. And I'm just finding that I'm having a lot of fun with this idea that I can, like, what if I could squeeze more out of my time? What if I could collapse time even further? What if I'm actually not that far away? What if there's so much more that's about to come from this? What if, you know, if I'm giving it my all right now, what if it's right around the corner? What if? Those are the things that I'm playing with. And so I'm finding that a lot of the things that I'm creating, like Once Upon a Time, and then heading into Apex season, that's what it's essentially all about, is like, capitalize on your time. Let yourself use now in a way that serves you energetically, that calibrates you energetically. And so anyway, that was a whole spiel about the third quarter. Do not take your foot off the gas, energetically speaking. You know, beware of the temptation to numb, throw in the towel, take your foot off the gas pedal, say, well, things haven't gone the way that I've wanted so far, so that means that I should just disregard the rest of the time. Next year is going to be my year. It really is a slippery slope, because when you allow complacency to take over, then you have to try even harder to rev up the momentum again, had you just not taken your foot off the gas pedal in the first place. And I find that the persistence and like getting back on the horse faster, get back on it again, it compounds quickly. But you can't just allow yourself to fuck off. You know what I mean? Like, the discipline, when I'm thinking about discipline and when I'm tapping into the energy of discipline, it is like commitment to your own vision, not hustle. Don't misrepresent this. Don't think about it as I need to push to the point of exhaustion. It's commitment to doing what you know is good for you. See the difference? So anyway, I'm very excited because my containers are, I'm feeling just a huge surge within them. Like, let's really see what the universe can do for you in a month in terms of Once Upon a Time. Let's see how embodied you can get and how consistent you can be and how willing you are to double down on this story and commit to the story and commit to the desire and commit to your own creation and commit to your dreams and go there so consistently the universe has to submit. That's what all of this is. So anyway, get in Once Upon a Time. I'm serious. It's gonna be awesome. And we're gonna have a really good time. Okay, anyway, I need to hurry up before this turns into a 2-hour episode. Okay, so the question is, could you at some point talk about not caring and the different types of not caring? I'm noticing that sometimes when I stop caring about an issue or a thing in my life, it's defeatist and unhelpful and makes things worse. But sometimes when I stop caring, even if I'm frustrated or angry, I get clearer and things go smoother. The mysterious, I don't give a fuck consciousness. Okay. This is a matter of tone. And when I'm talking about the flavors of not caring or the flavors of detachment, you're in this particular example, like it's defeatist, it's unhelpful, and it makes things worse. Usually that has a tantruming subtext. So that might sound and feel a little bit more like, well, I don't want it anyway. I don't care anymore. This sucks anyway. Why would I even bother with this? Like, now my own desire is annoying me. And there's like this attempt to fragment yourself further, which causes greater pain. And so the thing is, you can't fully abandon your desire through a tantrum. And that's why it feels so horrible. And so when you're saying it's unhelpful and it makes things worse, that's why. Because instead of actually harmonizing with your soul, which is how you feel good, you're trying to splinter yourself off even more, and it just creates a greater separation, and the tension of the separation is what causes the pain and disruption. So if it's tantrumy, if it's like lying to yourself, like trying to say, I don't care about this anymore, or I don't want this anymore anyway, or this is inconveniencing me, or blah, 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 then it's not going to feel good. However, the second part of it is if you stop caring when even if you're frustrated or angry, and it feels like I simply do not have the energy to hold on to this. Interesting. I was kind of in this position last night. I had kind of an irritating day. And then I got to this point where I was mentally ruminating about something. And I'm like, dude, I cannot even be bothered with this right now. This isn't helping. I'm not solving anything. I'm not improving any situations by ruminating. I've ruminated about this so many times that it takes me nowhere except a bad feeling pit of despair. So from that place, there was a release of tension through the acknowledgement that what I'm doing is not effective. Now, what I'll say is that's not always available to me. And I think that it's one of those things that is a case-by-case basis. And I don't even think that that's an attainable place in some situations. It happened to be in this one, or perhaps in your personal experiences, because there is a difference between feeling the relief of, I simply cannot be spending my energy this way, and trying to reject your own desire. That's the difference. One creates greater tension, and it's also not true. And the other just feels like dropping it for now. Like, I don't have to worry about it for now. I can revisit this later. I'm not going to come to any revelations through being nasty like this, or I'm not going to reach clarity through my own frustration and anger. So I'm dropping it for now. And then through that is where clarity can come. Hold on, let me turn my phone on do not disturb. Someone's going to start blowing me up. Okay. So here's the thing with not caring, is it's only effective if it feels like relief. If it's relatively emotionally relieving for you, then it'll be effective. And this is why in the beginning of this, I mentioned it's about tone. If it's an angry, tantruming tone, then that won't work. You're going to have to find another way, and you're going to have to find another door to relief. But if the not caring feels like taking a laissez-faire attitude, or it feels like putting something on pause, or it feels like I've thought about this so many times, I don't need to think about this again because I didn't get anywhere the last time I did this. Or if it feels like whatever is actually a pretty good energy to be in. Whatever. It'll sort itself out. Okay, so that can actually provide relief, but it has to be the emotional relativity piece is the most important. So you have to identify and keep a very close eye on your own tone about it, because that is going to inform what happens next, and it's going to inform the level of tension that you experience. So let me see if I can give you another example of this. Okay, so let's use relationships as an example. I think this is a good one. So you know when the person that you're dating or the person that you're married to or whoever you're with does something or doesn't do something, and your interpretation of it is, well, this means that they don't care about me. They don't care about the relationship or whatever. And then you feel bad as a result of creating that meaning out of the behavior. Okay. So that obviously is going to create all this tension within you that does not feel good, because that story is completely out of alignment with what God, universe, divine source, whatever you like to work with, your soul, whatever your soul perceives and believes in this moment. And so if you were instead to say, I'm clearly in a bad mood, I don't need to play out this conversation in my head right now, I can come back to this later and try again later. So now things are starting to be broken up, and it has the feeling of carelessness, like I can't go any further with this. It feels like dropping it. It feels like releasing tension. It feels like not engaging further with the thought form. It feels like the open-handed thing that we talk about whenever I give you examples from my health anxiety OCD. The open hand, like, yeah, the thought can be there, or the potential timeline, the potential storyline can be there, but I'm in this moment, I'm choosing not to engage with it. I'm not going into a dialogue with it. That's a really important element of this. So it is subtle. When you're saying it's mysterious, I would say it's not mysterious. It's just really, really subtle energetics. And this is why sometimes you'll get it and sometimes you won't. And sometimes you'll be able to get there and sometimes it's going to feel good and sometimes you won't. And so I do not, again, we kind of talked about this before. Some people are able to just consistently tap into this, like, I'm too cool for any of this. It's all going to work out for me, whatever, whatever, whatever. And it's this very chill girl energy is how I describe it. I can't do that all the time. I am not chill, okay, in that way. And I am also not the type of person who would ever pride themselves in like being a chill girl, okay, or being overly permissive with certain things. That's not authentic or real for me. And so this is why in the conversation of detachment, you would have to feel into some type of flavor or expression that feels genuine for you, that feels like a genuine supportive energy for you. And in my experience, there aren't a lot of those for me. So that's why I don't think that this is necessarily the gold standard in the way that some other people use it as a gold standard. If you can get to the I don't care in a way that is an emotional improvement, because here's the other thing. If you are bored, no, that's a bad example. It's a bad example. Let's back up. If you are hopeful and then you say, I don't care, it could go either way. That could be helpful, or that could actually drag you down into more of the energetic stagnation, where when you get to the place of hopefulness, then it's like, gun it at that point, because you want the energy to build. And if you're already in a space of feeling hopeful, then you can ride that momentum out. You can ride the energy. And so you have to be able to make the call in the moment. And I find that the I don't care generally only really works when you're starting to get in that angry zone or that frustration zone, and you can feel yourself starting to sink into that. And if you don't stop caring temporarily, you're going to start to boil. And so that's where it is helpful. But I find once you get into that space that's beyond boredom and starts to get into hope, then it's not going to be as constructive unless you're not thinking at all about it, and you can leave it in a good spot. Okay, let me get into this other piece because this matters as well. I don't care, and not thinking about it can operate in the same way that numbing does, in the sense that it's not going to be the energy that recalibrates you, but it's going to put the topic on ice. So if you're thinking about money, that I talk about this all the time, money is a high maintenance topic. So let's say you were like, I'm just not going to think about money right now. Okay, you can do that, or I'm not going to care about money right now. You can put it on ice for a second, but understand that it's on ice, meaning the topic has not been calibrated to the position emotionally that you want it to be in, right? So your thoughts, feelings, how you're identifying in terms of your relationship to money as a concept and experience has not moved. If you've practiced something over and over and over and over and over and over, and then all of a sudden you put it on ice, it's not going to move. So you would have to get yourself to the place where you're in an improved emotional space, and then you start to massage the topic of money. It's not effective, in my experience, to be in a not caring energy if you're someone who deeply cares about a lot of things. And if you're prone to, like if you have a type A personality and you're a little bit more high strung, the I don't care attitude isn't going to be quite as good for you. It's going to be okay in smaller doses. But if you have any type of obsession or any type of like, if you get fixated on things really easily, if you obsess over things really easily, if you feel anxiety over things really easily, that's going to actually be a harder energy to maintain for a long period of time, which is why I recommend use it strategically, but it's not going to be the best option for everyone. So if you're a type B personality, that could totally work for you. If you can have more buoyancy and levity around topics, if you're kind of already a naturally carefree person to begin with, it's like the benefit of that is that you hold on to less resistance. The downside of that is that your desires aren't as strong. So the good thing for those who experience really intense emotion, intense wanting, is that your desires are extremely potent, and they're also more than likely quite large. Whereas if you are more of the just laissez-faire all the time, then you don't have quite as much tension around your creations, which means that the polarity is less. And so the expansion is also less. That's kind of the trade-off, is the pain and pleasure spectrum expands equally, as I've said before. But the same is true for the tension when it comes to your desires. Let's go back to, I'm rewinding. That was kind of a side quest that we went on together. Okay, so not caring. You will hear people on the internet who talk a lot about detachment and kind of leaning back and just being like, whatever, whatever, whatever. If you find that that's easy for you, that feels very natural for you, have at it. Like, if you have good success with that, have at it. I find that that's just not my style. So this will only, this is the type of thing where you are going to have to experiment. You're going to have to do a lot of trial and error in order to feel into when this is applicable. So for me last night, it was really applicable. I was like, I literally cannot have this mental conversation again. I cannot. I do not want to let myself go there. And this, of course, like as soon as I'm about to teach something about storytelling and going into that, it's like, okay, here's all of the things that you need to share with the people who are inside the container. So it's like I have my own processes for dropping things, reworking things, shifting my energy, moving out of a black hole of thought. All of that is practice. What are my final thoughts on this? Okay, one other thing that I will say is the idea of detachment and not caring and all of those expressions of it, right? So if it's the whatever, if it's the tantrumy, angry kind of not caring, if it's the I just don't have time and energy for this right now, whatever, you're going to need to be quite sensitive in order to feel whether or not that's the right choice. So it requires really, really, really a lot of clarity around what it's doing for you energetically. And so this is why the best thing that I could give you here is, if you're wondering, do I just stop caring about this or dropping it or kind of negotiating with myself, reminding myself that nothing that I could say in this moment is going to fix it. Nothing I think about in this moment is going to fix it. This is not the right approach to it. Use relief as your emotional metric to feel into whether or not that's true. If you can successfully put something on ice, which is what not caring does sometimes, there's a lot of different degrees to it. Sometimes it can really open up the channels for people in terms of it can make you more allowing. But I don't have a lot of experience with that because my mind is super obsessive. So I'm not exactly the best person I'm not the best spokesperson for this particular topic, but some people are. And my fixation makes it so that I can't really leave things on ice easily. And I want to chew on it, and I want to poke at it, and I want to think about it, and I want to contemplate it. I want the mental stimulation of the topic and of the situation. So I don't have the luxury of being able to leave things alone. I kind of pick at stuff. And because I know that about myself, I have to use that constructively and I have to do something with it. And for me, that looks like actively recalibrating. It looks like using tools. It looks like imagination. It looks like doing character work. It looks like being more actively involved with my inner world in a way that is constructive and moving things in the direction that I want it to go. So that's the difference. I do think that there's part of this that does have to do with your personality. And again, if you resonate with what I just said about being a bit more easily fixated on things, wanting to pick at things, then you kind of have to, well, you don't have to, but it's like you don't have to have the temperament of a surfer. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to just be chill and whatever all the time. It's just you want to learn how to work with yourself. That's really the key. And yeah. So here's the other thing. You will hear a lot of different takes on this topic. And the only thing that I recommend for you is just be willing to evaluate what works for you. Check in with your own temperament. Check in with, like, how fixated do you get? How do you have a tendency to obsess? Do you have a tendency to be a little bit more high strung? Do you have a tendency to want to address things and have difficulty leaving them alone? Because that is going to make a difference on whether or not these types of tools are going to be the most accessible to you in any given moment. So don't get it in your head that you have to be super chill about everything or super laissez-faire or not care or anything like that. It might just be available in certain moments. And for me, sometimes I can't really not care about something or not focus on something unless I'm in meditation or I've exhausted myself on the topic completely. Because if you've thought and thought and thought and thought and thought, at a certain point, you just get sick of yourself. You just get sick of your own mind. And it's like, I can't even stomach thinking about this for another moment, in which case then not caring becomes a lot easier. So you just have to decide for yourself, where do you live on that spectrum? Where, what tools feel most easily available to you? And if not caring feels really forced, then I wouldn't try to force it. You know, it's like, but you have to talk to yourself in a way that is more helpful than harmful. This is what we're doing in Once Upon a Time. This is what we're doing in Once Upon a Time. I am teaching all of the nuances of this inner dialogue because this is what all of this is. This is 100% where everything comes from. You are either talking yourself into dark territory that doesn't feel good, or you're talking yourself into heaven. Okay, wonderful places with wonderful things and wonderful people and wonderful outcomes. Those are the two directions. And so when you are really sensitive to yourself, you know yourself well, and you are able to diagnose yourself and what is needed in the moment, and then navigate your way through whatever it is that you're facing, that's where the magic happens. That's where it all happens. That's where your stability really kicks in. So get in Once Upon a Time. Because this is the type of stuff that we're like, you will know exactly what you're doing. Your confidence around it is going to go through the roof. You are going to feel like a pro, like you know exactly what's going on. You will literally have me in your pocket so I can like help you get yourself into the flow so that you can do that self-diagnosing and then apply the right thing in the right moment. I find that that's key. is being able to tell for yourself what is needed, where am I at, what is really happening to my emotional and energetic body as I introduce this thought form or this tool, so on and so forth. Anyway, lots of stuff. We're already at 40 minutes. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up here. If you want to get inside Once Upon a Time, go apply. The link will be in the description box, the show notes, you know the drill. And if you enjoyed this podcast, let me know. Give me a thumbs up, leave a comment, all of that good stuff. And I will be back for more. The next podcast episode I'm going to be doing is all about self-concept. That one will come out on Wednesday. And that is a wrap, everyone. I will talk to you later. Have a good one. Bye.